Hey everybody, welcome back, and today we are doing another video in my No More Neutrals series, and it's going to be a little bit different than the format. All of these videos are going to be a little bit different. They might be tutorials, they might be reviews, they might be top 5 kind of things, but this one is actually a swatch fest and comparison. It's a dupe video, so we're going to be doing a high-low comparison of the the Urban Decay Electric palette and the W7 Neon Nights palette. Now, I've had this palette for forever. I love it. This palette, I believe, is $49. It comes with 10 shadows, a brush, and the packaging is just beautiful. Everybody knows this palette and loves it. It's Urban Decay. Now, this palette I actually found at a Gabe's, which, if you don't know what a Gabe's is or you don't have them around you, it's like a Ross but on crack. It's like, they're awesome. But I found this and I paid $7, I believe, for this palette, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, if those colors work, this is a dupe or close to for the Urban Decay Electric palette, which is why I bought it. And I have to say, I'm extremely impressed with how close these colors are. And when I say this is a dupe color-wise for the Urban Decay Electric palette, it is a complete dupe. So I actually did this look today using both of these palettes. I used one on one eye and one on the other. I'm not going to tell you which until the end of the video, so guess down below. But anyway, I thought what I would do is, again, compare them, do some swatches, and let you know my thoughts on them. So, alright guys, so I've already talked about the Urban Decay packaging. Now let's talk about the W7 packaging. Again, it is a very sturdy plastic, like, really nice packaging. It has it snaps closed, so it's not going to come open. It does come with a little brush, so you've got like a little flat shader brush, which I did use under my eye today, and a little sponge tip, which you can use in a pinch. Now this one comes with 12 eyeshadows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In this one you get, how many grams do you get in this? You get 12 grams in this, and in this one you get 12 grams, so you're getting the same amount of product with some extra shades thrown in here. So let's go ahead and do some swatches. So yeah, so as far as packaging, for $7, pretty darn good. 12 shades, you're getting the same amount of product as you would in an electric palette. So what I'm going to do is, because the palettes in the W7 palette, or the shadows in the W7 palette, do not have names, I'm just going to go down here, I'm going to go across and then go across, and we're going to swatch and compare. So the first one I'm going to pick up is Thrash from the Urban Decay Electric palette. And then I'm going to pick up this shade right here from the W7 palette. And I'm not going to lie, I am pressing harder in these shadows to pick them up because they do not swatch as well. However, on the eye, there was very little difference in how they applied. I had to work a little bit harder on my eye that I used the W7 palette on, but not a whole lot. Not anything where I'm upset about it. So Urban Decay, this is the W7. So W7 shadow right there. Urban Decay. So you can see the Urban Decay is just slightly more yellow in tone. However, I need to wipe off my fingers. Alright, so this is Thrash from the Urban Decay palette. This is the green shade from the W7 palette and the yellow shade. So this one you can see, I mean, they are pretty darn close right there. I mean, it's hard to tell. I would say in person that Thrash is maybe slightly more yellow, but then you have that yellow shade, that bonus yellow shade in there, where if it was coming off too green for you and you really wanted to get that Thrash vibe, that yellow, bright yellow green, you could throw that yellow in. So that is Thrash, and the green from the W7 palette, again, both have micro shimmer in them. And I'm not gonna lie, the shadows in the W7 can stain just as bad as the electric palette. All right, let's go into the next shade. The next shade is Freek from the Urban Decay palette. So beautiful, cool toned green, and I'm gonna swatch this shade right here from the W7 palette. So this is what they look like. Again, this is Freek. This is the W7 palette. I would say on the finger, the W7 maybe looks ever so slightly cooler and deeper. So Urban Decay, W7. The finish on these is identical. It has a beautiful sheen to them. So gorgeous. Again, Urban Decay is going to be more buttery. It's going to be more pigmented, but you can build these shades up. So I'm gonna just take a little bit more of the W7 and you build it up. So beautiful. So again, this one is just ever so slightly, I mean, it's hard to tell a difference. So I'm just being really picky for you guys. This one is going to be just a little bit lighter. This one's going to be a little bit more cool toned and green, but ever so slightly. All right, the next shade we have in the Urban Decay palette is Urban, which is this beautiful royal purple. Absolutely gorgeous. I have it on my eyes today. This is one of the colors I use, and I'm going to pick up this color right here in the W7 palette. So, all right, so you're definitely gonna have more of a sheen on Urban, and I will say one thing I noticed is these are more powdery. There's gonna be more kick up, but again, nothing that you are gonna have more fallout with these, but not a ton more than the Urban Decay. So it's definitely not something I would worry about. I would just say in application, do your face makeup after you do your eyes. All right, so let's go ahead and swatch these. So I'm gonna swatch Urban. So that's Urban from the Electric palette, and then this is the purple shade from the W7 palette. Now you can see that because it is powdery, you're gonna have, you know, you get kind of that weirdness there. However, very, very similar. I would say these are exactly the same color once I swatch these out in tone. Now, Urban is definitely more pigmented. Again, it's on top, but again, these shadows build beautifully. I'm taking a little bit more from the W7 palette, and I'm gonna build it up. So it does build very nicely. I mean, I would say that color's identical. All right, the next color that we have from the Urban Decay palette is Jilted, and I'm gonna swatch it with my pointer finger there. And Jilted is a beautiful plummy purple with a blue duochrome to it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna swatch this shade right here from the W7 palette. So there we go. So again, I would say this color from the W7 palette does not have as strong of a duochrome. It is there, but it's very slight, and it's a little bit more warm than Jilted from Urban Decay. So again, that's Jilted from Urban Decay, and this is that color from the W7 palette. So again, just slightly warmer with less duochromosity to it. Again, it is there. It's just not as intense as from the Urban Decay, but very, very similar. I'm tearing these shadows apart as far as the exact colors. So there are some differences, but not many. And I did find when I was swatching these that this color right here, which is one of the bonus colors, comes off very similar to Jilted as well. I'm gonna swatch this one down here. It is more of a burgundy shade, but it is very, very similar when it's sheared out. I'm never gonna get these off my hand. You shear out, Jilted. So when sheared out, they are very, very similar. It is very difficult to tell those colors apart. So you could go, if you were using this palette and wanting to get the look of Jilted, you could either use this color right here or this color right here. So even though it looks more burgundy, it definitely appears very, very similar on the hand, on the eye, in swatches, whatever you want to do. All right, the last shade in this row is Chaos, which is just a beautiful matte blue. And this is one of my favorite liners as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and swatch this royal blue right here in the palette. And again, this one is matte, not as buttery, and it is not, I would say that is a pretty darn close color match. I would say this one might be a little bit more blue, and this one has just a slightest more like gray dustiness to it, but very close. So this one is Chaos from the Electric palette, and then this one is from the W7 palette. So again, you can kind of see how the powder kind of kicks up, but again, pretty close. We're talking about, I'm looking at my monitor to, guys, to make sure everything's matching up. And again, I'm just gonna build it up to show you. You can build it up. And this is not just in swatches, I found this on the eye as well. So again, beautiful matte blue in there. I'm really impressed with how close they got to the colors and in a decent color payoff. All right, now let's go to the bottom row. My favorite color in this palette, which is Fringe. It is this beautiful kind of smoky teal. Oh my gosh, it's just gorgeous. So gorgeous. I love this shade. And in the W7 palette, I'm going to go into this shade right here. And again, you're going to notice a difference in texture, but that color's pretty darn close. And I don't know if you can see how that powder kind of bunches. You know what I'm talking about when you get a powder that's pigmented, but it's not quite as buttery, and that it kind of bunches up on you. So that's kind of what I'm talking about as far as the texture. But this is Fringe. Beautiful, just metallic teal. Absolutely gorgeous. And then this is the one from the W7 palette. That's probably the best dupe out of all of them. As far as texture, pigmentation, pretty impressed with that shade. All right, the next shade we are going to is Savage, which is this pink shade right here. Now this is one in the palette that does not feel as buttery. It definitely feels a little bit more dry. I know it is a pressed pigment, but beautiful matte pink. Now this one does have, this matte pink in the palette does have some micro shimmer to it, but it's not anything you're gonna notice on the eye. It comes off matte. It's like so minuscule, you have to like really look to find it. So there we go. So this one is Savage from Urban Decay. And this is from the W7 palette, that pink shade. So again, very close in color. I'm gonna build it up a little bit. This one's just more sheer, but very, very similar in color. And I did use both of these on the eye today, and I did find that was the color I was most worried about, because I did use this as my transition. I did lay down a very light brown, beigey color kind of as my transition under my brow bone, but this was my first like substantial transition color, and they both blended out beautifully. All right, next shade in this palette is Slow Burn. This is a beautiful orange. It does have some micro shimmer in there. Really, really gorgeous. And then I'm gonna go into this orange shade in the palette. Again, it does have some micro shimmer. Really, it kind of comes off matte, but those are the colors there. So this is Savage, or I'm sorry, not Savage, Slow Burn. And then this one is from the W7 palette. So again, definitely more kick up, but pretty darn close in color. All right, the next shade that we're gonna go into is Gonzo, which is this shade right here. It is a beautiful, brighter blue, and it does have some very, very fine micro shimmer in it. So let's go into this palette right here. And those are the two colors together. This one, again, does have some micro shimmer in it, but both of these colors just kind of seem matte to me. So this is the Urban Decay, that's Gonzo, which I did not get a good swatch. Let me try that again. So that's Gonzo. And that is the shadow from the W7 palette. And actually this one swatches a little bit better, so, but again, very, very close in color. I'm not trying to stare at myself at my monitor, guys. I'm just trying to make sure the colors are coming off the way I'm seeing them in person. Any of you YouTubers out there, you guys know what I'm talking about. You'll film something and you think the color and the tone is right on, and then you get it in your camera and start editing, and you're like, nope. And then the last shade in the palette is Revolt, which is just very, very intense silver. Again, I'm wearing this one on my eye today, along with the silver in this palette. So there you go. So this one is definitely more chunky. This one is definitely more buttery. So Urban Decay, Revolt, and then the W7 palette. So again, very, very similar. We're just talking about a difference in the texture of the shadow. So, but as far as the finish and the color, and even, like I said, once you build this up on the eye, let's try and build it up just so I can show you. You can build this up on the eye and to the same opacity as the Urban Decay one. This one is slightly less metallic, but not much. All right, guys, so those are my swatches for the Urban Decay palette and this very impressive dupe from W7. I did find this on their website. It is a UK company, but you can find it on Amazon as well. Again, and if you're in like a Ross or a Gabe's or a TJ Maxx, I would keep my eye open for this as well. But it's always right around $7 every place that I've seen it. So really, really impressed with this. Now, hopefully you have made a guess on which eye is which. So I'm gonna tell you, so this one is the Urban Decay right there, and this one is the W7. So my right hand side is the W7, my left hand side is the Urban Decay. So, I mean, just even looking at it, I don't see a difference in the shadows. I will say I had to build up the lid colors, Jilted, that really pretty teal color. I did have to build up a little bit more on this side, but not much. I mean, when it comes to sticking my brush in this product and building it up on my eye, I was really impressed with how these blended out. I was worried again with that pink, with those purples on how, and they just blended out beautifully. So, I mean, definitely the Urban Decay was easier to apply, but only slightly. So when it comes to applying these to your eye in comparison to these, it's not gonna be that much of a difference as far as I'm concerned with my experience doing this look today. I was really, really impressed with it. I thought it was going to be a lot harder. I thought this was too good to be true when I saw it, and it really is. I'm really impressed with this. It is, you know, and again, don't get it twisted. I definitely prefer the Urban Decay, but this is an amazing, amazing low end, and I hate saying that, drugstore affordable option. Yeah, everybody, so that is my review comparison high-low swatch fest of the Urban Decay Electric palette versus the W7 Neon Nights palette. Again, do I think this palette is worth it? Absolutely. I think the packaging is stunning. Urban Decay really doesn't let me down many times when it comes to shadow, and this is just stunning. I love this palette. I think it needs a lot more use in most of our collection, but some people, $50 is not doable, or it's not a priority, or you just don't want to spend that much on a palette, but you love those colors. And if that's you, then I think this palette is amazing. Now, do you need both palettes? No, that would just be dumb, as I own both palettes. But was for research. Yeah, so this palette definitely gets 2 big thumbs up from me. I think it's just a great, affordable option. So yeah, let me know. Let me know if maybe you were on the fence about the Urban Decay palette and you were holding off because you didn't want to spend the money, and maybe this is gonna push you over the edge to get these colors and get them in your collection, because I think the array of colors in both these palettes are just stunning, and they're unique, and it's not something you see in every single palette, and they inspire me when I look at them. So yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you have this palette. Let me know if you love it, hate it, would never ever choose this over the Urban Decay. I love to hear your guys' thoughts. But as always, thank you so much for hanging out, talking about makeup with me. Keep your eye open for more of these No More Neutral videos, because they will be coming, because sometimes we just get tired of neutrals and they are everywhere. But I hope you guys have an amazing day, have a rocking week, and I will see you next time. Bye.